Hi, I'm Joshua Kemble, and this is my Vloggins. So basically, yesterday was pretty cool. We had a good guest on Artcasters, which was on Scott Circlin's channel, and I got another page thumbnailed for my comic. It's looking more and more like the second volume is going to be longer than Two Stories Book 1. Maybe by about 10 or 20 pages, which is okay as long as it's in signatures of 4. I'll take it. So, but I am getting closer to like finishing thumbnailing that, and that I'm really excited about. Let's see. There are a couple things I need to do. So I would like to like make like a Facebook events page. That's something I'd like to do on Saturday. Saturday I also would like to let's see, which is tomorrow. But yeah, Saturday I think it would also be good to reach out to different comic book shops and sort of just see if I can get more signings booked, and then touch base with the comic shops that did express interest, but you know, the owners weren't there when I stopped by. So the two shops that I stopped by, I need to send like a follow-up email to, just to see like, hey, do you guys want to do this? If so, can we book it? I also want to reach out to a local brewery out here, local microbrewery, and see if they're interested, or if that's something they might be interested in. And I definitely need to make like an e-flyer. It doesn't have to be much. Could literally just be a very basic flyer. But I think the idea of making a flyer for each event, both on Wednesday and Thursday of this upcoming week, would be good. And the cool thing is everything else is pretty set. I think I have like 2 pending items that I'm hoping show up before the in-stores. But if they don't show up before this in-store, that's okay. It's not going to be like a make or break thing. I also need to make signage. That's another thing I need to do. Very importantly, in fact, that might be more important to make like my pricing signage and stuff. I'd like to do that. Like if worse comes to worse, it'd be fun to do that before the signings as well. Because I think a lot of the time, if you have like handwritten price sheets, it just looks like unprofessional and kind of weird. Whereas, you know, if you have like nicely printed pricing at your booth, like it definitely makes people feel a little more comfortable, you know, spending money at, you know, on independent stuff, and goes a little further to building trust. Because if it's a handwritten price sign, it just gives like, it gives someone a feel of like, well, that price could change at any time, you know. So that's something I'm gonna do. Let's see what else I have to do. Yeah, I mean, I've been listening to one of the Great Courses series on like the history of philosophy, and it's been pretty cool. It just got through like Platonic thought, and now it's getting into Aristotelian thought, and it's been fun to like kind of listen to, while also doing a part of my comic that's talking about my own philosophy and religion, and also like sort of getting to the fulcrum of like the whole, and not even the fulcrum. I guess the fulcrum would be like kind of like your dead center point, but more like the resolution part of the story arc that I've been working on for quite a few years. So that's cool. And I also, I'm really excited, but Jim Lujan sent me like a little clip of the cool pastor, which I'm really excited about. So I'm trying to think of how I want to play that for people, because he said I'm free to like show a little sneak preview of it. So I'm not sure if I'm going to put that on Instagram, put it on my Vloggins, or maybe just do it on the live stream and play it during. I think I might just post it to like Instagram and share it to like Facebook and Twitter because it's hilarious. and because Jim said I could. So that should be pretty funny. I'm pretty much playing like a cool pastor who gets corrupted, I think is kind of the part of the plot, but it definitely is so funny to hear the weird vocals that we tracked together. And I'm definitely no voice actor, so a lot of it was like Jim would kind of say something in a certain tone and have me parrot it, which is actually probably the best way for someone like me to do voice acting, because like I said, I'm not really like much of a voice actor or actor in general, and so that was pretty funny to see like the stuff we tracked on a Jim Lujan cartoon. It's just kind of fun because I've loved Jim's work for years. We've been friends for a while too, and it's I don't know, it's just kind of awesome to know that I'm going to be a part of that scenario. So yeah. So right now I'm heading to work, where I work as a full-time art director, and have for about 7 years. And I'm excited too because things are starting to look up a little bit, in the sense of like the economy starting to open again. So a lot of resorts and conventions and stuff are back on and going, and so that's a really good sign too for the future of where I work, which is really exciting to just see happen, because it's been like a year of just crazy strain and stress, and so I am really excited about that. And then I'm just like kind of trying to think of stuff that's coming up. Oh yeah. So tonight too, I have my second practice with Josh Patterson, my buddy, who is an awesome art teacher in the Antelope Valley. But we're gonna play some rock and roll. The practice we did last week was like exactly as you'd expect a practice to be, when you get together with a musician who you've written songs with, but you haven't had the opportunity to practice them together for over a year. So we were like super rusty, having to kind of remind ourselves of like different chords and stuff like that. But by the end of the practice, it was cool. We started to kind of feel like we were falling into our zone and kind of figuring it out. So all that's happening. Let me see what else. So it should be a fun night. We might stop by my buddy Robbie's house, who's the guy we recorded with, but also a friend of mine, really brilliant musician on his own. And he actually, this Robbie helped me master the Bottle of Better Then, and he works on masters of the album I'm working on right now too. Just like super awesome guy, like very much like as dedicated to music as I am to comics, and it's fun to hear what he can do with like a sort of weird experimental song that I send him, and he'll send back a master where it just sounds a million times better than the first version. So yeah, so that's kind of what's going on. Trying to think of anything else. I think that's basically it. Oh yeah. So I've been thinking about a bit about autism too. My wife took a test. It's like an assessment test for autism, and scored like an 18, which is like incredibly low, which means, you know, she's probably not autistic. And I took the same test, and it's like, you know, you can score up to 50, and 50 means you're like super autistic. I ended up scoring like a 41, which is pretty high up there. So that's more and more convincing me that I need to get an appointment and get the thing assessed. I think I actually want to know, just out of my own curiosity, like, and the only problem is it's really hard to book appointments for anything, like with how crazy and busy my schedule gets. But that's something I should put on my list of things to do. Maybe I can do that on Monday. And I have to say, it's also like just even thinking about that as a test, it's not quite as like sad or depressing as it seems. Like, I think a lot of people would, if they put themselves in my shoes, might be like, oh, well, that would be a horrible thing or something. But like, for me, actually, it sort of unravels a lot of mysteries in my life. In the sense of like, there's just different memories that I have from childhood and through adulthood, and certain things that I've struggled with quite a lot for my own life. Certain weaknesses I have in my personality, certain strengths, but definitely this ongoing feeling like there's something off, like I'm not quite like a normie or something. And it turns out, like, I believe that it's highly likely. I should probably just stop saying likely, and I actually believe I'm likely high-functioning autistic, which is, like, awesome. Weirdly enough, for me, I think pursuing a diagnosis would actually be interesting, and worth kind of exploring, because... Again, I mean, every time I like see a video or talk to somebody who has it, or just witness like my son and like his personality quirks and stuff, I just get more and more convinced that that's the scenario for me, which is actually pretty enlightening. So yeah, let's see what else. I think that's basically all that's on my mind right now. Trying to prep for those in-store signings. Definitely starting to feel that moment where you just feel kind of crunched. Like, the interesting thing, during this pandemic, I've had so many friends who've been like, I don't know what to do with myself, like, throughout the whole year. Or have felt like a little stir crazy. Some of them had to work from home, and like they just feel like they have too much time on their hands, and they're like, I don't know what to do with myself, you know. For me, it's been the opposite, where it's like I haven't seen a moment where I feel like I have accomplished or gotten done what I needed to get done. That's right. So listening to this Great Courses series, though, which, by the way, I highly recommend on Audible. Like, there's these awesome Great Courses series covering, like, almost everything. And it's great because you can, like, listen to, like, lectures from, like, an Oxford professor or somebody from Cambridge or Harvard who's, like, this crazy professor you have to pay, like, ridiculous amounts of tuition to listen to. And you can access these things, for like next to nothing, which is really exciting. But anyhow, so I was talking about Aristotle, and Aristotle asking this man. But most of these early philosophers and the accounts of them are conversations that are like documented, or plays where there's a conversation written. Often by the philosophers. So sometimes there's plays that early philosophers would write to sort of capture or document a conversation or an idea or a philosophical concept. But anyhow, so this is just one of those documented conversations where Aristotle is talking to someone, and I think he's one of the first people to sort of ask, without committing the infinite regress, because in philosophy, if you ask like why over and over again until you've basically deconstructed the entire reality of existence as we know it, it becomes an infinite regress, which is not a productive mode of questioning, because I mean, obviously if you're just going to be regressive like throughout your entire conversation to the point where you regress to nothing, there's really, not a lot of constructive solutions or ideas to live by generated from that. And since philosophy, I think, generally has to deal with how then shall we live, like it's not necessarily productive to be like, well, everything can be deconstructed to nothing, so therefore there's no point in anything. At that point, it's hard to have like a critical conversation or like a real helpful philosophy to kind of guide you in life. Anyhow, I'm rambling, but what was interesting is, so Aristotle's having this conversation with this dude, and this dude's talking about like the importance of like living a life of virtue and talking about that, and Aristotle just kind of posits the question of like, why? Like, why should anyone bother to better themselves, to grow their knowledge, to be a good citizen? Like, what's the purpose? And kind of resolves with the idea that like the purpose should be to find fulfillment and joy in the process of what you're doing. And so, much like a kid, like when I look at my son, like he can kind of play, and there's no objective behind his playing except just play. So, and this isn't like, like there's an objective behind him hungering for food. There's an objective behind other things. But like quite often when my son plays, he just wants to play. That's it. Like the whole, it's an end of itself. Like there's no pursuit outside of that. And I actually, so that was the whole point of, Aristotle felt like that was kind of like, one of the highest reasons to do anything in life was to kind of try to find pursuits of the arts and pursuits of different humanities and knowledge for the sake of itself, like the self-fulfilling work, like self-fulfilling, like I guess it's like a closed system of loop, where it's like the intent for artists, I think that, it would be like the art for art's sake kind of thing, where it's like making the art just because it's art that should be out there, and you're finding fulfillment in the process of doing the art rather than for the objective of anything outside of itself. I think that's a high pursuit, and I think I might be a little Aristotelian in this. Although the nice and fun thing about doing like courses or lectures is quite often, if you have a good teacher or a good lecturer, they'll kind of take you through all the loops and turns of different philosophies. So one week, you'll feel like an Aristotelian. The week before, you're going to feel like you're a Platonist. And months later, you're going to be like a Freudian analyst. I mean, you're going to kind of run the gamut of different things. Maybe you'll be a humist for like for like a week. So I'm excited about that little roller coaster journey to see if that really happens with me. But I will say, like the Aristotelian idea of like a self-closed, I'm doing a poor job of articulating it, but like an end of itself, being in the pursuits that we do that are fulfilling as human beings, I think is very very close to truth, and worth kind of remembering as I'm getting into this crazy business of like trying to do signings and stuff like that. I need to do these signings even with the objective of just doing them to the best as I can for the sake of doing them, rather than for some kind of crazy objective that I have no control over, or for material gain, because that's just not indie comics. not saying you can't make money on indie comics, but I think if money is your sole pursuit, you're really missing out on the whole purpose of doing art in the first place. So that's just something I've been thinking about. It's nothing like super heavy, but I liked the idea of the highest forms of fulfillment you can get in life being the times where we're simulating play, just like a child. So we're playing, and the reward for playing is playing. And same with this, like we're playing in a sandbox of art. The reward for playing in that sandbox should be the art itself. And even promoting and all of that should be kind of tied in with that. The reward of promoting should be promoting. Something to think about, something I'm thinking about. I don't really know what exactly I fully think about it, but I'm curious what you guys think. I also, as I start approaching other retail shops and stuff like that, because it's something I definitely need to do on Saturday, I'd be curious to kind of hear what you guys would suggest. I also am curious if any of you guys are doing conventions or anything like that. Definitely let me know, because I'm going to start looking into the possibility of conventions. But so far, it's looking like there's a convention in Utah, and I don't know if I'll be able to do it. Ideally, I should probably look in California ones. So that's another thing maybe I need to do this weekend. There's just too many things to do. But at the end of the day, like, you know, I think they're worthwhile, and I'd rather have too many things to do than nothing to do. So yeah, just some thoughts, rambling, vloggins, done. Also, the most important thing that I'd like to hear from you guys is, like, if I were to show that Jim Lujan clip, the brief preview of animation of me as a cool pastor, that's hilarious. If I were to share that, would you prefer to see that like on Instagram, on my vloggins, on the live stream? Like, how would you want to see that? So let me know in the comments. Anyhow, thank you guys. I appreciate each and every person following what I do, and the community that we're building. And I honestly, I really also appreciate like all the creators in our circle, because it's a hard thing to make comics, but a lot of the cartoonists that I know are literally doing this in that very Aristotelian sense of like the self-closed system, where it's like you're making comics because you love comics, and the reward is making comics. So anyhow, just something to think about, and I will probably hopefully get this posted either tonight. I may not have time to get this uploaded, so it'll either be tonight or tomorrow. But yeah, that'll do it. All right, talk to you guys later. Bye.